Hello, everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Red Zone, a very special episode of Beyond the Red Zone, our very own sports show brought to you by the good people at This Is Revolution podcast. I am your host, Jason Miles, and I'm thrilled to have you with us for this special early morning edition. For me, it is early morning. Usually Sunday is the one day I have where I can kind of sleep in past 6 a.m., but no. Mac and I were going back and forth, not arguing, just back and forth, kind of mad about the situation of one Shedeur Sanders. So we're so glad you're here. For our returning listeners and subscribers, and especially our patrons, hell yeah, this is going to be fun. You guys are the driving force behind the TIR machine, and without you, we couldn't do this. Also, for viewers of the main show, Kayfabe Episode 1, as well as all the other TIR video essays, is live on Means TV. But to view all our video essays, as well as all the other amazing content that Means TV hosts, go to meanstv.com and enter the discount code This Is Revolution, all one word, and receive 20% off a monthly or yearly subscription. Also, TIR is listener-funded programming. If you enjoy watching all these shows and you have the means and feel so inclined, become a patron. You can access champagne rooms, past and present. Join us for our patron-only call-in segments. Join us for movie nights. And also get our patron-only essay series, The Crisis Papers. Issue number 6 is up now. And the patrons at the Teenage Anarchist level and above receive the magazine layout that takes me hours to do free, while every patron gets the text-only version. If you aren't sure about making the monthly commitment yet still want to support, there is a link in the description to purchase the Crisis Papers. Wherever you are watching or listening to the show, click that link and make sure TIR can continue to bring you this level of irreverent, hard-hitting, quality programming. Now, let's talk about why you guys are here. And that is Shedeur Sanders. On our last few shows, we've explored how college sports are being transformed under the weight of neoliberalism, from Nico Yamalava's rise to the influx of venture capital reshaping collegiate athletics into a speculative investment landscape. So when we ask why Shedeur Sanders fell in the 2025 draft, we're not just talking about football. We're talking about labor, branding, race, and control in the age of hyper-commodified sport. And while many might not immediately see the connection between NIL, that's name, image, and likeness, deals in Shedeur's draft slide, stay with me. Shedeur Sanders is not just another college athlete. He is both a product and disruptor of the new NIL economy. As son of NFL legend Deion Sanders, Shedeur occupies a unique position in the current moment, a highly visible Black athlete trained from a young age in professionalism, media management, and elite performance. He's been coached by his Hall of Fame father and mentored by Tom Brady. This is not some case of a kid getting on by name alone. The coach's son trope, often used as a veiled critique of nepotism, rings hollow when applied to an athlete of Shedeur's caliber. Yet that narrative persists. It's not just about football evaluation, it's about control. The NFL, much like other institutions of capital, does not look kindly on laborers who show signs of being self-possessed brands, especially young Black ones. The anxiety around Shedeur isn't really about talent, it's about leverage. His fall in the draft isn't simply a matter of perceived weakness on the field, it's a cautionary tale told by a league uncomfortable with players who understand their own value outside its structures. College football under NIL has become a frontier of capitalist experimentation. Young athletes are learning to see themselves not just as players, but as portfolios. Shedeur has leaned into this fully, building his legacy brand, curating media around his career in real time, and preparing his last dance narrative before his pro career even begins. This isn't arrogance, it's awareness. And it's precisely that awareness that makes him a threat to the status quo. The NFL, unlike the still fluid world of college athletics, has an established system of control, rookie deals, franchise tags, and collective bargaining agreements that have historically limited player autonomy. What do you do when a player enters that system not looking to conform, but to leverage it for its own purposes? That's the unspoken tension. The suits in the front office aren't worried about gold chains. They're worried about the implications of a player like Shedeur successfully using the league as a platform rather than a destination. And in many ways, the slide may even be a feature, not a bug, for the narrative, for the brand, for the myth making. Shedeur is already scripting his origin story. And if the NFL isn't ready for it, that says more about the league than it does about him. Let me close with this. Don't buy into the recycled critiques about Shedeur's toughness, size, or temperament. His arm talent is elite. His accuracy, undeniable. His command in the pocket, both mental and physical, is top tier. He turned Jackson State into a force and made a deeply flawed Colorado team competitive. He's not a dual threat quarterback in the traditional mold, but that too is part of what unsettles the narrative. Shedeur Sanders is not trying to fit a mold, he's rewriting it. To discuss this with me, I have my homie, my dog, my co-pilot in these sports endeavors, Macadocious Rex.
Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. I hope we're all hydrated. If you went out and imbibed last night, I hope, I went to bed early. I was tired and I had to take my daughter driving, which is
that's always a good time.
Yeah.
But you live in the middle of, I shouldn't say you live in the middle of nowhere, but it's easier to get nowhere where you live.
Yeah, and that's what we do. I would never take Bailey driving in Fayetteville on the weekends because it's just
honey, now I have to learn about how to compete with drunk drivers.
Yeah. Well, dude, starting at like 10 a.m., it's like bumper to bumper. I'm like, this is fucking ridiculous. If I can avoid Fayetteville on the weekends, like during the day, I will. Like, it's just, like I get grocery shopping done. That way I don't have to go anywhere near town, during the day on the weekends. But DF, you brought up his arm talent isn't elite. I'll tell you right now, though, the only person with a better arm when we're talking arm strength, being able to hit damn near every round on the route tree is Cam Ward. Show isn't better. Gabriel's not better.
I've seen Shedeur make crazy throws, though, and he can throw people open. So what do you want out of
the only real knock that I would say that there is with Shedeur's game is he runs around the pocket like he's wearing clown shoes, right? Like, and for a man that ran for his life for the last 2 years, that's not exactly what you need, right? Footwork that can improve with coaching. That really can. And I think we could argue and make a good point that he's probably going to play behind a much better offensive line than he did last year.
Would you say, because this is my thing, what shocked me the most is how much came out about him being not as good. They said a little bit during the combine, but as he fell in the draft, all these people started saying, well, these are the flaws in his game.
Yeah.
And I'll preface this by saying this. I remember when I was on tour with Yo Gabba, we were in the East Coast, and I randomly ran into a scout at a restaurant we were at. And we were talking about Andrew Luck at the time.
Okay.
And there were knocks on Andrew Luck's game about his delivery. There was a hitch in his motion.
Wow. And that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Some of these scouts, man, and especially when you look at some of the organizations they work for, right? Especially with the introduction of all the, the stats geeks, number crunchers. You get this like big variation in scouts, right? So like you got the old school guys that are like, he taps the ball before he throws it, or some like draft day shit, like Kevin Costner's with his lead scout. Like nobody came to his birthday. What's that tell you about his leadership abilities? Or you get these stats geeks that are like, you know, well, 63% of the time, he'll do 4 steps, and then the other, 26 or 36% of the time, he scrambles out of the pocket. It's just like there's this huge swing in talent evaluation. But for like me, right, a lot of it's the eyeball test.
Mm-hmm.
How's he play on the field?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there was a lot of hype with Colorado, with Deion taking that job and, bringing his kids and Travis Hunter along. And, and that was to be expected. But, the first year in Boulder, I really didn't see anything positive because like Deion got in there and was like, 3/4 of you get the fuck out. Like, just go away. I don't want you here. You sucked last year. I don't want you bringing your suck into my new program, And so you had that big turnover in the roster. So you're not going to have a lot, right? Year 2, the fact that they were even ranked in the top 25 goes to show you how stupid preseason rankings are. Right? They weren't good enough to be there, and the fact is that Deion has a 10-year project if he's going to try and compete for national titles.
But would you say that that's different now? And this is why I wanted to add NIL into this assessment of why this kid fell. Because what I see with NIL, we talked about this last week with Ohio State winning the championship. Quarterbacks, which is kind of still the glory position, which you can argue is the position that's going to get you over the hump. Kyle McCord did not have a bad season at Ohio State before he transferred out. And there was a lot of news in college football that Kyle McCord left for Syracuse. Bringing in Will Howard, who, in my opinion, is less of a skilled quarterback than Kyle McCord as far as making all the throws, took that team and won a national championship in an expanded playoff. So what we're seeing now in college athletics, especially with the quarterback position and a few others, is you're renting them for a season, maybe 2, but generally they're there for a season and they're going to be gone.
Yeah.
Which is a whole different thing. So when you say 10-year project, it seems like this game has changed so much. Can you flip a program, as Deion has done in the last 2 seasons, without recruiting locally? Even I don't know what high school football in Colorado is like.
It's definitely not high school football in Texas or Florida or Ohio. But no, here's
California, please. Jesus Christ, you guys.
Listen, California is like a country all into its own, man. All right, leave it alone. I'm well aware of the talent in that state. Okay. But you have to be able to you don't recruit in stock anymore. Like Saban did masterfully for 15 years at Alabama, right? He was able to just stock 5-star talent, 4-star talent on the bench with the promise of like, hey, come your junior year, the guy in front of you is going to leave. And guess what? You're going to play for national titles and be a starter on this defense or the offense or whatever, right? But you still have to be able to stockpile some for that season, right? You've got to be able to go out and make those big pitches and bring in that talent. And the thing is, talent will follow you there, right? When I say there's a 10-year project, like he needs that time to build up that kind of like recruiting cash, to get kids to think, okay, if I go to Boulder, I've got a chance to win, which is still important. People want to play for national titles. Like, I get it. You want to get to the league, but as a freshman, you're stuck. You know what I mean? You're there for 3 years. You're not in the league, eligible to go play in the league for 3 years. So, they still want to win. They want the championship rings and all the goofy shit that these colleges give to players when they win. But you're not going to be able to just flip a switch and constantly bring in transfers that's going to raise your level, right? So like that's the project Deion's got. Do I think he's sticking around that long? Absolutely not. I don't see that happening. And it's not a knock against him. I just think a bigger school will come calling, or he'll finally bite the bullet and go to the NFL.
Does he go to Dallas?
Dude, I was thinking about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jerry loved him as a player,
Mm-hmm.
and it was kind of a big like thumb in the eyeball to the Niners when he signed him. But I think that would be an oil and water thing. I don't know if that would work out well. Look at who Jerry Jones historically hires as a head coach after Jimmy Johnson. They're not big names, big personalities, with the exception of Parcells, right? And that didn't even end well, you know? But I don't know, man. I think it's going to be a bad team. Not to say Dallas is good, but I think that he'll end up going to a team that's just dying for the big splashy hire, and they're going to back the Brinks truck up to Shedeur Sanders and hey, how much you want, dude? Just grab what you need and go. So, it's Deion Sanders is going to do what Deion Sanders does, man. He's very singular in espousing his greatness. I think as a player, you can't argue that. As a coach, I think it still remains to be seen. Jackson State was very different. You have an HBCU, takes a shot on him. He, demolishes his conference, and kind of gets Jackson State on the map as they're making the plan to move up. Now going to Colorado, it's a downtrodden program who hasn't had any real sustainable success since the 90s. What's Colorado got to lose? That's right. Bomani is no Jason Miles, even though Bomani is quite rad. But let's, getting back to Shedeur. I was shocked watching the first round, and seeing some of the picks. I'm a Pats fan. I was a little surprised that they went with the tackle from LSU because, there's a lot of people that don't think he's going to stick at tackle and he'll kick inside. I would like to see him stick as a tackle because pulling a guard at 5, I don't know, man. But I like what the Pats did, like getting somebody to get the ball to. That's great. I think the Browns fleeced Jacksonville. But I give Jacksonville's GM a lot of credit for making a splashy move, moving up, picking Hunter. And it gets back to, what we've talked about a lot is where do you play Travis Hunter? Is he going to be playing wide out or is he going to be playing corner? For me, with the way the league is now, I would want him on the defensive side of the ball.
Yes.
And then you scheme up 10 to 15 plays to get him on the field on offense. But like he's a kid and he believes in this invincibility, right? But real life has a way of humbling you really quick. Yes. And I'm not saying Travis Hunter is one of those dudes that just believes his own hype. When he talks about how good he is, it's because he did it on the field, but you can't play 130 snaps a game and have a long career.
No, and I don't want to see him play 130 snaps. I really don't. I really don't want to see him blow out knees, elbows, shoulders.
Dude, yeah, and you got to think he's not a big dude right now.
No.
Right?
Even if he gets bigger, I mean, he's going to sacrifice a little bit of speed, maybe even a little bit of explosiveness to get a little bigger at the NFL level. And I think that's going to happen in his second season.
Yeah.
But when I see a guy like Travis Hunter, I'm like, you're perfect for the NFL. You seem to have a wonderful demeanor. You seem to be a really good teammate. despite the fact that you're kind of a once in a century athlete that we haven't seen play to this level probably since leather helmets.
Yeah, oh, dude, yeah. Jim Thorpe is the last that comes to mind.
That's what I'm
right?
serious. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So when you see him and Shedeur together, and even when you see Shedeur and Cam Ward together, I don't understand why people act like Deion Sanders is this little league father. And that's why I wanted to put this. There's two mindsets that I think are very similar that people get stuck in, and that's small businessman mindset, where you see Trump as like a good guy because you're a businessman too, and you don't like taxes, and little league dad, which is, well, I coach my son's little league,
Yeah.
AAU, or even high school team, and this is the way I see things. It's like, look, dude, you're not the same person, number one, and number two, you're not responsible for hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars. So shut up. It's not the same, right?
Yeah.
So Shedeur playing, like, I've heard this multiple times on ESPN and NFL Network. Deion Sanders was his coach, ergo he protected him. What the F are you talking about? We're talking about big time college sports. This isn't the coach's son who's not very good and gets the start because he's the coach's son.
Yeah, this isn't if my dad was my coach.
Yeah, stop acting like this is the same thing.
Where he calls 50 running plays and I average 2 yards a carry, right?
My son rushed for 1,000 yards on 500 carries.
Yeah, on 500 carries, bro. Like that's not good. Statistically, that's not good. Yeah. And that's what kind of kills me. Like people, what gets lost in all this is Shiloh told his dad that he couldn't act as his agent anymore and hired Drew Rosenhaus before he signed as an undrafted free agent. It's not like Deion. Like if the other son, which I hate calling Shiloh that, he's his own,
and he's in the NFL as well,
right? But if Shiloh is like, yo, pops, like, I'm not having you run any of these deals for me. I'm an adult. I'm my own person. And I'm going to go sign with Drew Rosenhaus, and he's going to get me in the league, which is what happened. Like, if Shiloh's doing that, you think Shedeur isn't doing the same thing?
Like, I don't know is Deion Shedeur's agent? No, Shedeur has his own agent, right?
Yeah, but Deion was running almost every, like, acting as agent for all their NIL stuff, right?
That's different, though.
Yeah.
All these dads are. But from what I can remember, Jack Elway, who was a coach, was saying, my son's not playing for the Baltimore Colts.
Yeah.
And John Elway had the trump card, which was, I'm going to go play for the New York Yankees.
Yeah, which, I mean, imagine how sports history would be if he would have stuck with baseball. Charles, Shiloh's, fiduciary stuff aside, okay, granted, he did declare bankruptcy, but that's neither here nor there.
The people declaring bankruptcy. Again, let's get out of small businessman mentality. Yeah. When you declare bankruptcy, was it a chapter 7 or 13? Most likely it was a 7. He probably overspent. He's waiting for a bonus, or money didn't come. You declare bankruptcy to wipe those debts clean and wait to the next big paycheck. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. But again, like somebody brought up another Colorado alum, Cody Hawkins, when his dad, Dan, was the coach. Cody was not good.
No.
And he was a quarterback. And Dan, who kind of built Boise State into the program that it still is right now, was just like, what would be great for Colorado? My son taking all the snaps. And when Cody Hawkins threw a football, it looked like you were tossing a wiffle ball down.
He was not very good.
No, he was not good at all. So this isn't that. And, Newry brought up another, point. People kept saying, well, teams don't want to deal with their dad, with Deion.
That's bullshit, though.
I'm just saying this. Granted, Deion doesn't do a lot of recruiting himself. Deion is also in charge of a Power 4 football team.
Thank you.
That is a full-time job.
Thank you.
Right? That is very time consuming, because he's not just coaching. This is what a lot of people don't realize about college football coaches. He can be Deion Sanders all day long.
Mm-hmm.
He still has to meet with donors.
Mhm.
He's still meeting with Boulder City aldermen. He's still meeting with, faculty government president, representatives. He's still doing all these things because if he wants Colorado to be successful, and I think he does in his own way, right? Like, you don't take a job like that if you don't want success. You're going to raise funds to get the better locker room and weight training facility. You're going to help raise funds to add luxury boxes to the stadium, or whatever it is, right? Like, he's out there doing that. If, say, Pittsburgh took him, right? And, Mike Tomlin's meeting with Shedeur, Deion's not going to have the time to be up there every Sunday.
It's insane that they think they're going to be getting tech. Deion Sanders is a professional coach and athlete that is the personification of the professional classism of the civil rights movement. And when I say that, I mean he's all about professionalism and respectability. Even though he was a brash young player, when you hear the way he talks to his young athletes, it's always about professionalism. Always. Even the way he handles himself on the sidelines, whether you like him as a coach or not. And we've definitely had our critiques of Deion Sanders as coach.
Yeah. Right? And I think I think Deion's aware of when you are Deion Sanders, you're opening yourself up to armchair quarterbacking, right? Like that's just how it is.
Yeah.
And he has a lot to be critiqued about. I think X's and O's, he needs some work.
Yes.
I think he needs to get out on the road and start getting out with his assistants and his recruiting coordinators and getting, FaceTime with these kids instead of just saying, just let them know they'll be coming to play for Deion. Right? Like, there are things he could do better. Like, it's just every coach can. Ryan Day, beat fucking Michigan, please.
Fuck these national championships. Right? We just need you to beat our rival.
Yeah,
but it irritated me to no end that people kept saying no one wants to deal with Deion, as if the two things that irritated me a lot, and it was offensive. Number one, or three things. Number one, he's not a twitchy athlete. First of all, just because he's black and plays quarterback, he doesn't have to run. I'll say this again for the racists in the back. Just because he's black and a quarterback, he doesn't have to run.
Last I checked, not every black dude runs a 4.4.
No,
right?
There was this guy named Byron Leftwich that I believe he went number 6 or 7 overall.
Yeah, out of
couldn't
Marshall.
Run the flattest feet. I actually worked with his quarterback coach at a boxing gym in San Jose, California, in the aughts. After I lost everything.
Yeah. It's just like I've never understood this. Like, well, if it's a black QB, he's going to be a mobile guy. No.
All quarterbacks are mobile in 2025.
Yeah. Last I checked, Jameis Winston isn't exactly what you would call a mobile guy.
No, but all quarterbacks. Would you agree with this, Mac? Peyton Manning and Tom Brady mold is kind of over because these kids learn at a young age. I have to at least have a certain amount of escapability. They may not be Lamar Jackson, but even the white guys are relatively fast. Bo Nix comes to mind.
The days of the statuesque sit in the pocket, take that beating, like that's done.
Yes.
That is very done. And for good reason, because virtuoso, I'm not going to argue that point. That's very true. That is very true. Right. But Jameis Winston is more fun doing it because he's in the huddle. Like, listen, I know coach called a play, but you just run.
You just run. I got you.
And he's telling jokes. He's doing Jameis Winston things. Jeff George is just like smoking a cigarette and blowing the smoke in his offensive line's face. He's like, well, you fucking guys just block for me.
Yeah. When you pans, he's gonna block.
God. I'm the number 1 overall pick, and they bring in Andre Rison, and Jesus Christ. Jeff, you're not supposed to be smoking in the huddle. Just shut up. Go long. But like those guys took a beating, I mean, I'm surprised. Like I'm going to use your boy case in point, even though he was a guy who could move around the pocket and made a living doing it, John Elway.
Yeah.
Towards the end, though, he could barely move.
His knees.
Yeah.
Bone on bone.
Well, probably knees, hips, lower spinal
shoulder.
cord, I don't think
From
there's any
all that running.
Yeah, there wasn't any cartilage left in Elway's body except in his face, like
when you look at, like, I think I told you I worked at a WWE Access, so I got to meet quite a few pro wrestlers, and watching them walk around was one of the more heartbreaking things I've ever seen, because not one wrestler could stand up straight.
Oh, dude. And especially with how the rings are now, like they're made to give and flex and bend to take some of that off.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the Dogwood Festival yesterday, which is like this big, like little thing down in downtown Fayetteville. Mm-hmm. Next Level Pro Wrestling set up a ring in the middle of the street because they had it blocked off. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, dude, this is as bare bones as it gets. And I kept seeing these dudes like full on body slams, German suplexes. And I'm like, that guy is not going to be able to feel anything later today. Because like there was no springiness to it. It was just like they got some guy from the NWA in the 40s and they're like, hey, how do we build a ring in the middle of the road? And he's like, I gotcha. So you just put down some plywood on and throw some steps up. They'll be fine. And it's just like, no.
Rub some dirt on it, kid.
Yeah. I mean, Claw, exactly. Like you guys know Bledsoe's my dude, but he wouldn't last in the game now. He was probably at the tail end of that kind of statuesque pocket passer mold. Ewers, like, see, this is what gets me about, let's just talk about the quarterbacks taken, right? You look at like Tyler Show, who, dude, I'm not going to knock him for transferring the way he did. That's kind of the norm now. But there's a reason he kept losing his job. One, injuries, and two, there was always a better quarterback behind him, right? Yeah. So when he would get healthy, he couldn't get his job back. My biggest thing is Jackson Dart.
He's not even the joke we make about white quarterbacks.
No. And the thing is, you didn't hear any kind of like first or second day talk about Jackson Dart until the Senior Bowl, right? Like not even a little during the season, and it's like, where did this kid come from? Yeah. He's obviously talented. I don't think you could take that away from him, but I always have an issue, right? This is my thing. We all know that there's communication between coach and QB now through helmet stuff, right? And it does turn off. It does turn off before the snap. Yeah. But this is what a lot of people don't realize. There's a lot of reasons the offensive coordinator sits in the box now. And it's because it gives him a better sight line to see how the defense is set up. So before that communication's cut, he's telling the QB, okay, your X receiver is going to be your first read, tight end second, third read is dump it off to the running back. Mm-hmm. Right? So the offensive coordinators made the read already and given it to the quarterback. That is every Lane Kiffin offense, right? Like his quarterbacks struggle when they get to the pros because his system is predicated on him or his OC making the reads for them, and then they take that into the snap and go through the play, right? Well, in the NFL, that doesn't happen. The QBs have got to be able to make these reads quickly, right? I mean, when I saw it was the Giants that traded back up to pick him, I was like, shocker. Another bad QB pick, right? Or another project. Like Daniel Jones, that was a project if there ever was one, and you took him in the top 10. Like, what were you thinking? Dart is a little lower. Maybe you get a little more leeway with development. But I think taking a guy like Jackson Dart, the Giants probably are going to have a pretty good defense this year. they've literally got one of the best defensive lines in football. When
Yeah.
you have like Kayvon Thibodeau,
Yeah.
you got Carter, and then you
Yeah.
got the one D tackle that is just a menace.
If Carter can be half of what he was in college,
Yeah,
that's gonna
right.
be scary.
Like if Brian Daboll has any success, it's going to be winning like 17-10 games, and your QB, be it fucking Russell Wilson or Jackson Dart, throwing for like 180 yards a game.
Look, I want to say this real quick about Shedeur, because there was one person in the chat that keeps trying to you don't need elite twitchiness and speed to be a very successful NFL quarterback. CJ Stroud, who's also a colored fella from California, does not have elite speed and can get away when need be. I think he's a little bit bigger than Shedeur. I think he's about 6'3", 6'4".
Yeah, I mean, and this is the thing with CJ is everybody that is a Buckeyes fan is so used to having like Terrell Pryor and freaking Justin Fields, but they forget we also had Dwayne Haskins for a year, who was not a mover.
Talk about statuesque.
Yes, he was not a mover.
No.
At most, he slid away, which is essentially what CJ does, right? Mm-hmm. But everybody's like, why doesn't CJ just take off and run? That's not his game.
No.
He's not a runner.
No.
We saw in that playoff game against Georgia where he can move, but he knows that he's going to do most of his damage, putting the ball in the air.
I mean, Peyton Manning ran for touchdowns. Like Dan Marino could move. It's not their game. And I think people are trained almost to see these young colored fellas come in and run read option stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, for years, the NFL just fought. We're not doing RPO. Like, no way. That is a college gimmick. And we're not going to run spread tendency here. And then look what happens, man. They're realizing we have to tailor our game to the strengths of the players coming out of college, right? So, yeah, you start seeing RPOs instituted. But you know what's hard to run about the RPO at the NFL level? There's no slow guys on defense. Like where a quarterback who maybe isn't as fleet of foot, right, can get away with making a smart read, pulling it and taking off. That is harder to do in the NFL because these guys, I mean, let's face it, this isn't the NFL you and I grew up with, where guys were like sipping beer on the sideline and
smoking cigarettes
and carousing, like doing Tony Montana levels of blow in the off season. These players now realize I have a small window to play professional sports and make some money, generational changing money. And they lean into it. They eat right. They take care of themselves. Recovery is a big thing. You know what I mean? Like, this is different. So all these guys are big, fast. They know the game, and it's just, RPO, a lot of it is dependent on like kind of smoke and mirrors and making a good first read. And if you hesitate for 1 second, you're getting lit up by a D tackle that slid down off his man and just, sniffed it out, so like you got to be smarter with it. And, like you were saying, you don't need to be like, we don't need Lamar Jackson skill set with every QB. Like, there's a reason Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson, because he's the guy that can do that, right? He's in a system that is built around him, that caters to his strengths and tries to cover up his weaknesses, right? Mm-hmm. Or alleviate those weaknesses. I shouldn't say cover up. Like, we know Lamar at this point. But, with a guy like Shedeur, your best bet, man, like, get him behind a good O-line. We've seen he can throw the ball under duress. He did that for 2 years at Colorado. But give him time to set his feet, and he can, make most of those throws. I actually think him ending up in Cleveland, probably a good thing.
Really? Why do you think that?
Well, Cleveland, I think, did smart with their picks and then recouping another first rounder next year with that trade with Jacksonville, right?
Yeah, that was
Like, and I know Browns fans were pissed off. We could have had Travis Hunter. Yeah, but you burned a lot of draft capital bringing in, the fucking
Deshaun Watson.
molester, the alleged molester,
Yeah.
because we're not getting sued here. But shore up that defensive line, shore up the middle of the defense, which I think they did great picking that linebacker out of UCLA. I think that's really smart considering JOK may not be coming back this season because he had a neck injury last season, right? You get the Browns offensive line healthy. Let's face it, there's probably going to be a lot of big names cut going into June 1st. You can shore up your O-line there before going into, the summer team practices. I like the Quinshon Judkins pick. I think that's a phenomenal pick. They kind of shored up their running back room. There's a lot of depth there now. Jerry Jeudy, I think, is going to,
finally looks like an NFL receiver.
Yeah, he does. And you're not going to have a lot of pressure, right? That quarterback room is garbage. I mean, Joe Flacco is a day older than Jesus in NFL quarterback years. And if you think he's making it through the whole season, you're wrong, right? Like, he won't. He's not a 17-game starter, And then you have Kenny Pickett, who I think we can all say is a bust at this point, and it's just trying to get another shot at starting. He might be the darker-haired version of Carson Wentz.
But Carson Wentz actually did very well before his injury. Wouldn't you agree? The year that the Eagles won the Super Bowl.
I mean, yeah, but a lot of this has to do with getting game film on a guy, right?
Sure.
And once they figured out all his best hits, you realize Carson Wentz was kind of outmatched. Now, I'm not going to knock Wentz. I would hold a clipboard for what he makes in a year. I would do that in a heartbeat. I mean, I think Fannin is probably going to be the hidden gem in that. I don't know if you know who Fannin is, Jason, but he's the tight end from Bowling Green. Had like 115 catches, 1,555 yards last year. So, the thing is, you can split him out and like the slot or out wider off the line, and he's going to be comfortable there because he's not the best blocker, but you can coach that up to where he can just kind of be a speed bump, and that's all you need from a tight end these days. But like, there's going to be people there at the skill positions to help whoever's taking snaps for Cleveland this season, right? But if you're talking about competition, it'll be Shedeur against Joe Flacco, who, again, Father Time is undefeated. What if Joe Flacco comes to earth really quick, this coming season? And then you have Kenny Pickett, who I don't know is going to be able to hold a starting job. Dylan Gabriel, which I was shocked was even taken.
So shocked. I think the Dylan Gabriel pick was a middle finger, or it felt like a middle finger. And when I calmed down a little bit, I was like, this is my tinfoil hat theory. Hear me out. I didn't even text this to you because I wanted to say this to you on air so you can hear me out. My tinfoil hat theory. For collusion, you don't need all 32 teams.
No.
You just need about 4. I do think 4 quarterback needy owners did get together and say, we're not drafting this kid, and this is why. And I don't think it was necessarily owners, but people, analysts that the owners hire that are part of the team, because this is real analyst thinking here, right? This is real McKinsey-ite thinking that this kid is a problem, not up front because there's league maximums and minimums. He's a problem for renegotiating a contract. If he is going to be good, this is going to be a problem down the road for us.
Yeah.
So we have to make a gentleman's agreement not to pick him. We did the thing we always do. We send our people out to say so-and-so was bad in a meeting, but we all know that doesn't really affect things that bad. It worked with a guy like Dan Marino, but it works until it doesn't, because when Dan Marino becomes one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, no one cares about his cocaine use before the draft, right?
Yeah, and see, this is what kills me. We talk about, like, that was the big thing that came out, right? Well, we bombed an interview with the Giants. Okay, I get it. These interviews are essentially job interviews. Like, this is why you should pick me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he bombed it, allegedly. All right. Can you explain to me how that is worse than an alleged, because it was never proven, like, stupidly expensive cocaine habit while you're in college?
Yeah. When you're supposed to be a poor kid from fucking Pittsburgh, how are
Yeah.
you affording all that's the thing. Like,
Not
I
even
don't.
just that. Like,
Yeah.
Laramie Tunsil, it was the same thing with him. He made a bong out of a gas mask, and they're like, well, he smokes weed. Obviously, we shouldn't touch him.
And he still win the first.
And it's just like, why does this matter? I'm going to tell you right now, all these fucking, GMs and armchair GMs and coaches, if you think that your neighbor isn't doing something weird in their off time, you're probably wrong, right? I guarantee you, everybody listening, everybody watching, everybody that will watch or listen in the future, when you're sitting on your couch, look to your right or left and just think, my neighbor's probably doing something super weird in their house right now. And it's going to be true. One of those are doing something super weird.
And if they're not, it's you.
Yeah. Okay. Like, people do shit, man. And for me, like with Tunsil, like, it's weed, dude. It doesn't make you, a better football player. It gives you the munchies at the worst. It might make you a little paranoid, like, that's nothing, right? A dude bombing a meeting should not preclude him. I mean, and let's face it, this was a very weak quarterback draft. This was like a draft.
We said that last season.
Yeah.
About this season.
This was a quarterback draft akin to the year, Jim Druckenmiller was taken in the
This is
round.
kin to me 84. And the only reason why Cam Ward went number 1 was because the quarterback position is such a glory position.
Yeah.
That we will put a premium on that guy, even if he's not that good. I don't think Cam Ward's very good. I sent Mac this image. It was like Cam Ward is I can't remember what number it was, of ACC quarterbacks taken 1 overall.
Yeah.
And all of them are not good.
Yeah. And it's just like, we would be very remiss if we said that Shedeur was this perfect quarterback. He's not. He's not. And we're not arguing that. But I'm going to tell you right now, Jalen Milroe was not better.
No.
Here's the thing. Kalen DeBoer runs a very complex offense, right? He's ran versions of this offense since he was like dominating junior college, right? It's very complex. And it is very predicated on the quarterbacks making the reads at the line of scrimmage, right? Milroe's first, exposure to having to call his own reads, we saw what happened last season. Alabama's offense was a mess. That
true freshman was a breath of fresh air and one of the most exciting players I've seen in a long time.
So imagine Milroe, getting the starting gig. And, he's one of those guys I think needs coached up for a little bit, right? And it's not a knock against him. That's okay. Some guys need a couple years to really get into the playbook, really get into, the nuances of playing quarterback at the NFL. Claw, I'm with you. Like, there wasn't one NFL scout that said Dylan Gabriel can push the ball down the field. He can't.
Well, that's what I think, that this is where the tinfoil hat comes into play. I think there was collusion for the first 2 rounds. Right? I think it was a gentleman's agreement between probably about 4, maybe 6 teams. We're not going to touch this kid for the rounds, and the media machine will take care of the rest. We don't have to say anything. All this unnamed source. Some say an unnamed source to me is the same.
Yeah.
Because all these things come to light. Everything comes to light. You'll find out so quick if somebody really said something. Ask the Trump administration, right? And I say that to say that Milroe and Gabriel felt like panic picks because they were afraid, like, we got to get somebody soon because, our agreement with,
Yeah.
we have to get someone because someone's going to take Shedeur, they're going to take this. So let's just get a backup in case we don't get Shedeur.
I mean,
and that's what Dylan Gabriel felt like to me.
There could be something to that. But like with Andrew Berry, I will say this. I think he's picking for his job right now. Claw, you can back me up on this, but Jimmy Haslam has shown I will fire a head coach and a general manager after a single year. He does not care. Right. So, I mean, I don't know. Like that could happen. I'm not going to say it didn't. The front offices of these teams are in constant contact with each other, and it's very secretive.
Yeah.
But when I saw they took Gabriel, I was just like, what the hell?
No one had him anywhere.
No.
He even went before Kyle McCord, didn't he?
Yeah. And here's the thing with me. There hasn't been a scout since Dylan Gabriel started playing college football, 15 years ago, that said he's got what it takes physically to play in the NFL, right? Gabriel has been a very prolific quarterback in systems that cater to what he does well. Yeah. The teams he played for had smaller, faster receivers, so he can get the ball out quickly to these guys, and then they did the rest, and especially at Oregon, he had some burners out there, and it's just like, I was flummoxed when I saw that the Browns of all teams took him. I'm like, dude, your stadium is right on the lake. In the winter, when that wind starts kicking, fuck me, dude. That ball is going to flutter and just like, I was like, there's no way he's going to, yeah, that's exactly it. Yes. And, if Gabriel started playing college football 15 years ago, Show started playing 20, like it just,
I don't understand. Like, I understand how you can let a player fall. I understand that this year is not a great quarterback year, but it's not like next year is better. If you want a reference to go back to, for me, mainly because I'm so old, I always think about 83 because I don't know if we've seen a quarterback draft that good. This last year, to me, is as close as you're going to get to 1983 as far as a draft of just ridiculous quarterback talent coming out in 1 year. I think all those guys that went in the first round, with the exception of JJ McCarthy, I think JJ McCarthy is the Todd Blackledge of the bunch.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, we don't know.
We don't know, but I feel real confident about what I've seen.
He did go to Michigan, so I hope he just steps on Legos all day, every day. But I'm with you. I don't feel that JJ McCarthy, because he didn't do really much at school. What makes you think he's going to flip this?
That's what I'm saying. Like, you see, JJ to me is the one outlier of that group, but all the other guys, Bo Nix, thank you. Michael Penix, thank you. Caleb Williams, you're just going to get better. Mm-hmm. Who else came out? I'm forgetting.
I mean, all those guys are, and the thing is, especially with Nix, he ends up.
Hey, God, it's Hayde, Washington Commanders.
Oh my gosh.
Jaden Daniels.
There you go. God,
Jesus,
dude.
Jaden Daniels for that quarterback class, freaking nominal. You're going to look at 2024 and you're going to look at 1983 and you're going to go, yeah, this very comparable. And let's throw in Jim Kelly.
Tony, you have to go into timeout now. You can't say that shit in chat.
If JJ can just play Ohio State.
You're in timeout, Tony. You're in timeout. I thought we were friends, but you decided to go for the low-hanging fruit.
Oh, look at this. This person right here must be from Michigan. You got to show us a picture of your ID, person. JJ can play. We'll see. He made plays and showed traits that translate. No, he didn't.
No.
It's all media hype. Yeah.
I mean, speaking of media hype, there was a little bit behind that in the college football season about Shedeur.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And he comes in with a big spotlight, right? Like that's just how it's going to be. You're the starting quarterback, Power 4 school. Your dad's a head coach, and you're a Sanders. And we're sorry, dude. Jason and I combined are 90 years old. Okay, like things get lost. The wrinkles in our brains where all that memory stored, our shit's starting to get smoothed out. Okay, that's the sad part. We're forgetting. The only thing Jason doesn't forget is how delicious raisins are and to froth his coffee in the morning. Those are two things Jason just does. All right, everything else.
Very true. As I'm drinking out of this lovely Judas Priest mug.
Yep, same.
Screaming for vengeance.
But the media did have a play in all this, the build up, and then I would say the tear down of Shedeur. And I think what I found really odd was the timing of it all. Shedeur is one of, like, the media saying he and Cam are going to be the top 2 QBs taken. That was the narrative all season. We get into what I'd say a month before the draft, and then you start hearing the things about Shedeur, right? You start hearing things. Well, his footwork's bad. Well, he, bombed an interview. Nobody wants to deal with his dad. The timing of it all was just way too serendipitous, and the sad thing is because of this 24-hour news cycle that we have, especially in the sports world, and that's another thing. Like, everybody's like, well, we've had it for a long time. Yeah, but what's made it worse is gambling, is the sports game.
Right? Seriously. Gambling has made everything worse because everything boils down not to wins and losses, but to fantasy points. And gambling no longer resembles, it's part of it, but it's a small part of it, just point spreads. It's about prop bets.
Yeah. And that's the sad part. It's like, you're not just betting on, the point spread anymore. Like, what are some of the big drivers of bets on, like, FanDuel and ESPN bets and DraftKings and all that shit? It is literally, how many buckets is this guy going to put up in the game? Yep. How many rebounds? How many steals? Like, it's horrible, and it puts undue pressure on these young kids coming out of college. I think, if you've watched the show or listened to it, everybody knows Jason and I don't want these kids to fall on their face. They're living a dream that, if you love football, you wish it was you. Like, I would have loved to have played in the NFL. I was too short. I was too slow. Wasn't strong enough. I wasn't good. Okay. I wasn't good. But not every kid's going to make it. There's only so many roster spots. There's only so many teams, well, Dusty, I already got that CTE. I was a paratrooper for 13 out of my 16 years, and I jumped out of an airplane more than 100 times. So my brain's so smooth, you could probably skip it across a placid lake. But there's just all this undue pressure because, one, we have a social media climate where we have a lot of keyboard warriors that are like, well, my prop bet failed. I lost a bunch of money. I'm going to go talk shit to this kid.
Yep.
Right. Like, bro, I am going to go be the bad guy here and say, if you didn't want to lose $400 on whether TJ Yeldon would score 2 touchdowns, you should know TJ Yeldon didn't score 2 touchdowns in the entirety of last season,
That's why they were given. So the odds were so crazy for that numbnuts.
Yeah. Like, dude, if you don't want to lose that money, don't put the bet down. Right. Like, I don't gamble. I just, my vice is booze. And honestly, that's a treat now. But like gambling for me, like, I don't make enough money to lose like that. One. And two, I don't understand the rush behind it. Like, oh, I just put a $400 bet on the WNBA because I need it, like. And that's not a knock against the WNBA, but a lot of these sports bettors now, it's all day, every day, and they find a season to put bets down on.
For years, me and Coach Will used to always say the WNBA should play at the same time as the NBA. And now, because of sports betting, that's never going to happen. That's not even an option. I've never heard anyone say it's like, no. We need year-round gambling because we get year-round attention.
I mean, dude, here's my tinfoil hat.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why the EPL has grown so much in the United States in the last 10 years. Not because Americans, in conjunction with Americans falling in love with European football, because it is a fun sport to watch. As much shit as I talked about it for so many years, once I finally sat down and watched it, I was like, I actually like this. This is nice, right? But it has to do with gambling, I think.
Yes, I agree.
Right? Because
that and club sports. I think the growth of white kids no longer playing baseball and football. They're coming back to basketball, mainly the girls.
Yeah. But like you said, it with gambling everywhere now and being able to do it from your phone.
Yeah.
You've got to plug in the holes in between the major North American sports leagues, and EPL does that perfectly. And it's high stakes.
And when you're gambling, if it's a real addiction, and it is an addiction, and if you've been around people that have addiction problems, you don't sleep much.
No.
Right?
No.
Sleeping is for the square. So at 2 a.m, you know what I can watch? Soccer coverage.
Yeah.
In depth. Thick accent, shiver me timbers, fucking soccer coverage.
Yeah.
So
it's not even just EPL. They're watching the Kazakhstani Super League. I don't know who this guy is, but he's gonna score 2 goals today.
G League basketball. There's a team, I didn't even know this, Mac. Tijuana.
Yeah.
Has a Warriors team.
Yeah. And the thing is, the arena they play at, Adam Silver is actually scoping to have it expanded, like with the NBA kicking money in, because they want to put a team there. They want to put it there in Mexico City.
Can I say this? I'm going to be really honest. I usually try to lie about where I live so you people don't come down here and ruin my mildly affordable rent. But there is a bit of an infrastructure for a stadium here. You can literally walk across from San Diego, and once you walk back across to the United States, there's an outlet mall on the other side, so there's shit to do. I could see Claudia and the governor of Baja giving whatever the NFL wanted. There's not a business owner down here
that
NBA would be against that. Oh my God.
The NBA wants to expand exponentially overseas.
Mm-hmm.
The NBA basketball is a global game. Maybe not like European football, but it is. And the thing is rather than using league money to, thank you.
I told you I saw those traps.
That is. You're gonna make me blush, man.
I told you.
But rather than spend league money, he's talking to major clubs in Europe about saying, "Hey, leave your domestic leagues. Let's make an NBA Europe featuring you guys." You can't really do that in South America, like in Central and South America. The leagues just aren't big enough. But what you can do is seed teams, right? And it's going to take a major investment by the league, but it's going to be a lot cheaper than it would in Europe. Europe already has the infrastructure. You just have to get teams to leave. and come and do NBA Europe or whatever the hell they're going to call it, right? You get into Mexico where basketball is fast growing as a sport.
Very fast.
You know?
So is football, yeah.
Yeah.
Basketball, yeah.
Right? It's the same thing when you get into like Brazil, Peru, Chile. Like they have growing domestic leagues, right? NBA starts throwing money behind some of them, get a couple good, top teams, and then what can you do then? You can pluck them, NBA South America, right? Like this is the goal for a lot of these leagues. Is the NFL is cutting sizable to you and I, but when you look at the business model, it's not. But $15 to $20 million every year have went into the European League of American Football that's not run by the NFL, that has local ownership, right? Because they want to see their sport grow as well. And it's hard to run a sports league. It's very expensive, but they're kicking up money over there so they can continue to raise player salaries. And I think the average salary would be like 50,000 American a season, which after the UFL's new collective bargaining agreement is only about $10,000 less than what UFL players are making here in the United States. So the NFL is looking at it this way. What we can do is we can help financially support these leagues, make them viable. And that could also be an outlet for American college players who maybe don't get drafted or sign undrafted free agent deals to go get game tape. And then we can pull them over when they're ready. Just like the UFL. It's tailor-made and it's cheap as fuck. And that's how we have to look at this growth in sports, right? Especially when we're talking about college now. Jason and I have probably talked about this way more than most other people. Venture capital is coming whether you want it or not.
Sadly.
This is going to happen. You're going to see T. Boone Pickens purchase the Oklahoma State Athletic Department, and it'll be run to his whim. And he'll be able to dump however many millions and millions of dollars he wants to turn the Oklahoma State Cowboys into a perennial powerhouse, right? But this is going to happen. This is going to happen. And it's going to affect how these players are being drafted. Just wait until the actual Super League hits college football, and it's going to come. The days of us complaining about, well, we got another team, Delaware Blue Hens are moving up to FBS. That'll be done because the top teams will separate eventually, will have their own Super League, will have their own playoff, and will have their own championship and rules. And everybody else will be left in the dust.
So you're saying the future is rollerball, the what we opened the show with. That's the future. I sadly, I think you are correct. And I think it's closer than we think.
I give it 5 years.
Oof.
I mean, dude, the new NCAA president has already said, like quoted, not back channel shit out front, we probably need to separate the top the Power Four from everybody else. Because with the House NCAA settlement, how is Tulane going to be able to afford $25 million to pay athletes?
Exactly.
Or Delaware? How do the service academies navigate this now? Right? Because these aren't just regular college athletes. These people are going to be commissioned into the United States military. Do they have to pay the 25 mil?
Did any service academy people get drafted this year? I don't think so.
No, I don't believe so. But private schools, let's talk about this real quick, right? What rules are there to stop them from paying more than $25 million to their athletes? Because they're not subject to the same rules as state schools, right? So, like, this is a whole Pandora's box that's going to explode all at one time because we're slowly building to that. Well, we're fastly building to it now. And there's going to have to be a conclusion to it. And it's going to have to involve a huge influx of money. And that is going to be like private equity and venture capital, whether we want it or not. So, get ready for the College Football Super League brought to you by ExxonMobil and BP. where the first round of the Super League playoff will be played at, Kyle Field and College Station, Kyle Field, or, it'll be, what is it? The Fiesta Tostitos, Kyle Field, it's all going to be that, and I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if you didn't start seeing advertisements on uniforms, it's just this is gonna happen, and you could do one of two things. You can completely turn it off, and be done with it, or you roll with it, because this is how it's going to be. As we get into like even at the pro level, these more commodified, like we have to find new means of generating revenue. Your favorite baseball team is going to have, is going to look more and more like European football jerseys. Like your team logo is going to be less of a presence, and you're going to see Chevrolet, instead of.
I'm waiting to see the kind of the nationalist backlash to baseball, because already it was kind of dominated by foreign players from Latin America, and now that you have foreign players from Asia coming in and not just dominating, but again, we talk about once in a century talent, who's Travis Henry, Shohei Ohtani. Like there's these guys doing things that we haven't seen since in the off season people were like worked at meat packing plants.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, these games are going to be global. Like there's no arguing that now. Like there's a World Cup of American football. Usually the American contingent is led by like D3 and D2 players. And the last one, they actually lost to Japan. Right. But this is how you increase revenue as you grow the game. Right. It's been a slow burn from the early part of the 20th century, when Americans started making more disposable income so they can pay for tickets to go to these games. And sport became, kind of ingrained with, who we are, because things were regional, right? Like I'm from Cleveland. I'm a Guardians fan, love the Cavs, Ohio State. But when you look at college football now, this is all national, right? Mm-hmm. Baseball isn't a regional sport anymore. It's a national sport. And it started in the 50s when the Dodgers decided to unhitch their wagon from Brooklyn and head out to LA. Like this is an eventual thing. This is the continued growth. This is the business part of this business. And that's what it is. This is a business. If you're generating millions and millions of dollars in revenue, you're a business. It's not just a sport anymore, right? The sad thing is that as this business has grown, one of its major financial contributors being the fan, we're getting priced out of it. Like, and I'm not even talking about not being able to go to the stadium anymore. You can barely catch the shit on TV because of all the blackout rules and how we have to subscribe to something else in order to watch. Right.
Yeah.
This subscription model of consumerism is bleeding into everything. If you are in the market for a new vehicle starting in the 26 model year, every major car company is unhitching Apple CarPlay and Google Play from their vehicles because they want you to purchase a subscription directly from General Motors or Ford or Stellantis or BMW in order to have music that you've purchased or use or subscribe to be able to play into your car speakers. Right? Mm-hmm. It's bled into everything. Major League Baseball, because of poor planning and leaning into the regional sports network, which exploded when Diamond Sports went bankrupt, is looking at literally consolidating all of their teams' broadcasting rights under the Major League Baseball umbrella, and then having you purchase a subscription for the team that you want so you can watch their games.
Which was kind of a failed model in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that, you're going to get so many games on regular television. And then if I wanted to see the local game, I had to get Giants Vision, which cost money. We definitely didn't have that money. So I watched Giants games like I watched Cinemax porn The squiggly lines.
Squiggly lines.
Like, oh, yeah, that's a good take, Will Clark. That's a good take, Will Clark.
Yeah.
Good eye.
Hey, I think I saw Will Clark swinging.
Just listen for that.
Yeah.
but this model of where you're going to rent everything and you're going to be used to it is something that we shouldn't look at people that own things as like hobbyists, right? Like, oh, you own vinyl, so you think you're better than me. It's like, yeah, some of those people are douchebags, but think about the fact that there was a time when you owned your movies. You had a DVD collection or a VHS collection or a CD collection. Even if you were burning them, you own them.
Yeah.
And I guarantee people don't have those anymore because who the fuck has a DVD player? Once you got your smart TV that had all your streaming services on it, that had tens of thousands of movies, you thought to yourself, Netflix is going to have these same 10,000 movies forever. They're never going to go away. And a few years later, they go away. Amazon has more, then you sign up for that too. Then they have special programming you want to sign up for. But no longer do you go to Walmart and the dollar bin and buy a bunch of DVDs because, again, maybe you don't even have a player to play it on.
Yeah. And I mean, it's so frustrating that when you think about it, your vehicle is going to be the second most expensive, the second biggest expense you have behind housing, right? Mm-hmm. And in the United States, you're really forced to have a vehicle. You don't have a choice because, public transportation, why would we have that? And then, okay, so I have to I have to purchase this vehicle. And now I have to have a subscription just to use things that have been, part of the cost of the vehicle to begin with for however many years. Like it's ridiculous. But that's how a lot of these companies are looking at it now. We get consumers to subscribe and we put them in a position where they don't have a choice, because I tell you what, I don't want to do is just sit in my car with quiet. That would seriously drive me up the fucking wall. I do not need to be alone in a small space with my own thoughts for 10 minutes, let alone, a long drive. It's just, and when you couple that with the planned obsolescence that used to be so prevalent, that is still prevalent in like laptops and cell phones and things like that, it's introduced into vehicles now. So you might take out like a 4-year car payment. By year 6, though, you're probably looking at a new vehicle because all the tech in it that is designed for it to fail, that forces you to go back to a dealership and purchase yet another vehicle. Right? Like, it's maddening that we have hit this point in, capitalism that, you want to keep me completely indentured to, rising rent costs, a constant car payment. Mm-hmm. I have to subscribe to everything just to exist. Well, what happens when we all run out of money? And your consumer base is, devastated. And we're hitting that already,
Well, that's when you buy now, pay later. We're going to.
That shocked me that they're doing that with groceries now.
Did you see the Coachella was like 60% of the people that went there and bought their ticket there, which doesn't surprise me because people charge their tickets before. But look, the fact that there's buy now, pay later for Uber Eats.
For groceries too?
It really speaks to the fact that no one can afford to do anything. But what I think it forces you into, Mac, is more gig work where, I don't have a car. So you can do one of two things. You can actually rent a car on your own if you have the means, right? And then do Uber, or they can give you a car, but you have to do so many rides before you even break even.
Yeah.
And it just keeps you on the clock. That's the future I see. I own nothing because I can't afford to own anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of just work to survive. So there's a movie with Justin Timberlake, a science fiction movie.
Yeah, it's called In Time.
In Time, that
Yeah.
actually talks about
Yeah,
what we're discussing right
it
now.
pays you in time,
Yeah.
and you have a clock.
Yeah.
And you pay for everything with time.
With time. Yeah. And that's kind of where we are. It's selling your, like, literally,
Mm-hmm.
you know, oh, you want to watch a little TV? You know, a lot of these, what I always say about science fiction that I think people miss, no one's trying to predict the future. They're talking about the present.
Yeah.
So these are critiques of where we are today. And we have to let's think about that for a second. This is where we are today. And I don't think we think about that because gig work is just so ubiquitous at this point. And it's not just driving people around or picking up their food. It's like running errands for people. It's doing tasks.
Mm-hmm.
It's cleaning people's houses. Basically everything that you used to have a business for, that's getting disrupted by this idea of gig work. And there's venture capital that wants to put money into these projects. And those projects are just going to destroy these small business people that were, it's very localized, right? There's no big chain of tailors. That's a local, or dry cleaners. That's a localized thing, industry. Imagine when these young budding tech people, we call them tech people, they're not, they're just, you know, venture capitalists or aspiring capitalists, to say, well, what's an industry that I can disrupt? Laundry.
Yeah. I mean, this is what killed me about Sean Fain, who, remember, last year was everybody's golden boy, you know, for negotiating the new UAW deal, for calling for a general strike, really getting on board with these tariffs, because, and then he, you know, he's like, it's going to force the big three here in the United States to open up more factories here. And he's absolutely correct. They will open more factories here that'll be more automated, that'll have less people working in them. And most of the people that do work in them are the people that are going to be in charge of software and making sure these machines are running smoothly. Right? Like, yes, they will open more factories here eventually. But it's not going to lead to job creation. It's going to lead to job loss. They don't want more workers, right? They don't want employees. They want independent contractors.
Yes.
So they don't have to offer, I mean, not that many places offer a pension anymore, but they don't even want to have to offer matching 3% of the money that you put in your 401k.
There's no, Mac, there's no shop floor. There's no place where we all sit around and congregate and say, you know what's not fair? X, Y, and Z. We should band together and tell the bosses, but you're not a boss with small businessman mentality. And the greatest trick the devil ever pulled, in my opinion, was convincing people that small businessman mentality and little league coach mentality is the ideology of your worldview.
Yeah.
That to me, it's, again, we're looking at college sports through the lens of the little league coach, of the AAU coach. And it doesn't make sense when we're talking about Shedeur Sanders. This isn't strictly about him being black. That plays into it, and I think it plays into it because it's easy to cast racial critiques, right? He's got gold chains, he's brash, his dad was a talker, blah, blah, blah. But he's a ridiculously rich kid that went to ridiculously rich kids' schools. If you listen to the way his father talks and the way that he talks and Shiloh talks, they sound drastically different because he's not hood.
Yeah.
A lot of people like nice things, nice jewelry,
we've talked about this
shirts. Yeah,
a lot. Our sports landscape is changing because this is going to become a legacy thing. Right? Athletes' kids are going to have access to the best schools where they're going to get the best coaching. They're going to have access to trainers and off-season programs and dietitians that me and you and I would not have access to, right? And you're going to see more and more of this. It's essentially very prevalent in the NBA, but it's getting more and more prevalent in football. It's getting more and more prevalent in baseball, where you're seeing a lot of juniors and thirds coming up.
Yep.
You know, and that's honestly that, right or wrong, which I think it's very wrong, because I believe sport is a very important organizing tool that we could use. And a lot of leftists just don't see it that way. But I will take, this is just how I feel.
I'll go to the mat and fight for that. Oh, I agree with you. Keep reaching. Keep going.
At the high levels, it's going to be more and more, like somebody said, nepo baby stuff.
That's all it's going to be.
And that's because of the money behind it, right? If you want access to the best schools, you're going to have money to put in, right? And let's face it, Deion made a shit ton of money, and like him or not, he was a very smart businessman who was very smart with his money, and his kids didn't grow up the way he did, right? Mm-mm. His kids went to a private school in high school. Deion Sanders started his own charter school.
I don't think his kids went to.
No.
No, those kids are highly educated. They're very professional. Watch them in front of a camera. They're comfortable. They're not really. I don't think Shedeur Sanders is that brash. I don't really think he is.
I don't either. No, he's a kid who has been very successful.
Yeah,
at the game he's played for his adult life, his formative years and going into the early part of his adult life. If I was that successful at something, I'm going to be well aware of that, right? And I'm not going to shy away from that. That's not him being brash. That's him knowing his strengths, right? And we really have in this country, just like this, we kind of punish people for being aware of their strengths. People have them. Everybody has them. We're all good at something. And it could be knitting. If you're a fucking rad knitter, dude, just let people know, man. Show them what you made. That type of shit. Like when people create something, like an artist, like when my daughter like paints or has a drawing, dude, she's going to show it off. It's the same thing for Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah.
Right. But because he's very public, because he's an athlete, apparently it's an attitude problem, right? Like he believes his own hype, or however you want to, put it. But, I've never seen him as overly brash, not the way Ryan Leaf was, who like literally walked in like kicking the door. Yeah, I'm Ryan Leaf, and I'm this tall, statuesque quarterback, and I fucking played in Rose Bowls. Like to me that was brash. Like
blew his money in Vegas, where they asked, what are you gonna do with your signing bonus? Like going to Vegas.
Yeah, like Shedeur Sanders. Again, this is a kid that we didn't hear anything about in college, right? No negatives. He went to class. He got to practice. He played on Saturdays, right? We never heard of him being academically ineligible or having trouble with grades or any of that shit. He did what he was supposed to do, And it's just like, I never quite understood. And it goes back to this 24-hour news thing, right? We as grown-ass adults whinge and moan and bitch and complain about the decisions of kids 18 to 22 years old. We critique them. We pick apart everything. Alf, Ryan Leaf has grown up quite a bit, and I will agree with you there. But
yeah,
we're talking Ryan Leaf getting drafted
30 years ago now.
Yeah, right. But why are we as adults so hung up on what a kid who we have no real connection to other than fandom? Why do we feel that we have the right to tear down?
I want to say this. Prester John, who's always a huge troll, actually said something in his trolly way that is correct. He is the wrong class, Prester John. He is part of an athlete class. He's part of an athlete class. And the reason why I bring up his race is because it's used as a way to get clicks. This is also a warning sign to Arch Manning. Don't think it isn't.
Oh, yeah.
You don't make decisions, Arch, like your big uncle did.
Mm-hmm.
You will take whatever we give you and you will shut up and you will like it. And you will go in the draft where we think you should go and you will shut up and you will like it.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that the shocking thing? We heard so many people talk about, well, they want to deal with Deion. Arch comes out next year.
Maybe.
I would argue Archie Manning is more of a pageant mom than Deion Sanders.
What happened with Eli? Eli did not have anywhere near the negotiating power as a John Elway.
No.
And still got to decide where he went because of Archie. If you think this was not a warning sign to the Arch Mannings of the world and whoever else's young kid is coming up, I don't know, then you really want to believe that these professionals in football that have been dealing with rich Negroes for the last 50 years all of a sudden don't know how to deal with one that actually is professional because he wore his hat backwards. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
The race card is being used because that's all people have to talk about because no one's talking. There's no real executives telling anyone why they picked him where they picked him.
Yeah.
And the Browns are going to be real quiet about everything. And they're going to say exactly what, oh, we like Dylan Gabriel's ability to lead a team. And he was a winner at all levels. And come on.
Yeah. I mean, dude, there is something to be said. Let's not act like some of these draft war rooms, you don't have that really racist scout that's like, back in my day, we would have made him move to corner. Like
he's too athletic. He needs to play linebacker. like the white cornerback thing. I was thinking about this today. There's only a handful, right? It was a Cooper DeJean.
Yeah, Cooper DeJean was the big one.
He was a first round pick.
Yeah.
Jason Sehorn. There's not a lot. But if you're a halfway decent athletic white boy, much like they did for Negroes for years, move you to the middle linebacker position. He's rangy. He can move. He's not afraid to tackle. Let's make him middle linebacker.
He's got
make him safety.
Those fast twitch muscles.
He's got those fast twitch muscles. We need him at free safety where he can ball hawk, right? The same thing with, this black guy can play quarterback, but he's can he read a defense? Can he understand? Can he control the line of scrimmage? Maybe.
Has he been in his playbook?
Maybe he should play wide receiver.
Right?
Yeah. Don't think white people don't get to say, but I want to play cornerback, coach. No, Tyler, you're going to be the world's greatest middle linebacker at 225.
I mean, and this is, there is some like the race thing while it's still there. Yeah. That's another one, Virtuoso. What's his Wonderlic score? There are scouts. Maybe he was Prester. He might've been, who knows? I mean, I don't think race is the thing in this situation, right? I don't think it's the prevalent thing in this situation.
The people just like to use it.
Yeah. And for me, if you're going to use the race thing, make it count, like make it true.
Mm-hmm.
In this instance, I don't think that's it.
Oh, right? Dude, before I logged on, in the Chicago Defender, I had to pay to read it, and I didn't read it because I had to pay to read it. The whole article was about time and time again, Negroes come up to try to win, and the white man must defeat them with their bigotry.
I mean,
I know a Negro has taken one overall for the millionth time, but it's different with Shedeur because he is a Negro of the utmost negosity.
The
negosity of this Negro with his backwards ball cap and his gold chains frighten the white man, even though they've been seeing them since Negroes were wearing gold chains in the 70s, but it's different with Shedeur. For some reason, it's racism. Are you listening, white people? Please listen. I've spent my George Floyd money. What will I do now?
Wow. Oh, man. I mean, and it's. I don't think in my 43 years, Jesus Christ. Oh man. I don't think in my 43 years I've seen a tumble like this though.
No.
Right? We've seen some guys like slip around, maybe two. But watching what a month ago was a surefire first round pick go in the 5th, I was just blown away by that. Like what? Like I'll be thinking about this for a while. What scout really sat down and was like, and actually, exactly, and like the dude that, the dude, like literally the guy ends talking about Jason when he was at Virginia had to sign a zero tolerance like agreement that if he so much as farted in the wind wrong, they would pull a scholarship and kick him out. Right? Like, but what scout actually sat down and was like, Jalen Milroe is a better overall quarterback than Shedeur Sanders, and actually believed it, right? Tyler Show, better quarterback. No, man.
No. This is what kind of, it can work one of two ways, right? Either Shedeur gets the Disney story where he makes a team and maybe he becomes a starter and he has a successful NFL career. Successful meaning maybe he plays 6, 7, maybe 10 seasons as a starter, goes to a couple playoff games, a couple Pro Bowls. You could say it's a success, 5th round pick, blah, blah, blah. But I see quite the opposite with Shedeur Sanders, actually. I see a Kaepernick situation where the NFL already has, and not the NFL, I should say, the sports media machine already has a built-in story about you. So facts no longer matter. Yeah. And this is where kayfabe, in my opinion, really comes into play. And this is literally why I made this documentary series. Because what we're going to witness with this is all conjecture. Nothing will be based in any sort of fact. It will all be conjecture for the rest of this kid's career. And the way he's going to be looked at will all be imagined, because none of us know if there was 6 or 4 or 2 or 3 or no NFL teams that got together to say, let's not draft this dude. Can we make a gentleman's agreement that we're not going to draft him? Maybe the 3rd round, because the more Shedeur Sanders guys come in here, we're going to have a nightmare of a time with Arch Manning.
Yeah.
Because unlike Shedeur, Arch is going to one of the top tier programs in the history of the sport of college football. He's not transferring all over the place. So that's going to be another plus in the everybody loves Arch category.
Yep.
He's got Manning behind his name, and everyone's going to love him because his uncles are just the most fun-loving football yuck guys around. So, and unlike his uncles, he's got, like I said, mobility, ridiculous accuracy, and his uncles are Hall of Famers. If not, well, Eli's not, but Super Bowl winners, multiple Super Bowl winners. And his pawpaw was a really good quarterback at the NFL level and a legendary one at the college level. So these guys are frightening because they're coming into the league not just as millionaires. And I really want people to understand this. There is a milieu that these young people live in where they understand they are under a microscope constantly. And these young athletes understand branding on a level that their professional peers do not get. They understand social media better than them, and they're getting paid in high school, and they understand their value. Every relationship to these people is trans fucking actional. They don't care about loyalty to the sport. They don't care about the fans at all. So, how do you gain an upper hand? You have to be, and I'm not saying this because I think it's the right thing. I'm saying because this is what I think I'm seeing. We're going to discipline you. Cam Ward doesn't need disciplining. Neither did Caleb Williams. They were going to take whatever deal they got.
Yeah.
Shedeur Sanders, Eli Manning, John Elway. There's a very small amount of NFL players that called their shot coming out. And 30 years ago and 20 years ago, it was a different game. Shedeur Sanders is documenting his draft because he's going to make, or his father's going to make, or his people are going to make a documentary series about his life. This is the world that the NFL is not ready for. They don't want to deal with, because again, it's not dealing with Deion. That's stupid. It's dealing with Shedeur on the next deal.
Yeah, I mean, and let's face it, we've already when this athlete class of, you know, juniors and thirds and fourths start coming up, this is going to become a bigger and bigger issue for the NFL. Right?
Yeah.
So the NFL can do one of two things. They can lean into it and accept it, right? Or they'll fight it. And we've seen that they'd rather fight it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you said, they want these athletes to know you're coming to play in our league and we are the bosses. We control things around here, not you.
Not you.
Okay? Not you. Mm-hmm. We do. You know, and the thing is, that's not going to work long. It won't. Go ahead and keep fighting these guys, right? I get it. Right now, you're the only league in town, you know, but as these other leagues grow up and get on solid footing, you know, as the popularity of the sport grows across the globe, who's to say a kid who didn't make a killing in NIL in college is just like, you know what? I'm going to go play in Cologne, Germany for a year. Why? Just because.
That's what they're, look, you know? They're scared of that LeVar Ball mentality. My kid's not going to college. There's no money there. My kid can go overseas and make money, right? Or I'll start a league and ruin everybody's eligibility. But you know, I can, this is what I'm going to do to F you guys over. And again, someone in the chat, DF said the NFL is very reactionary. Colin Kaepernick may not be someone that I think is the greatest humanitarian of all time, right? But I will say this, and no one can deny this, even if you're the most vehement racist in the history of vehement racists. Colin Kaepernick was blackballed by the NFL. There's no reason in the world, the last 8-9 years, that there's quarterbacks that are that much better than him, that he couldn't have gotten a shot to at least hold a clipboard and come in for a team that was, you know, hemorrhaging quarterbacks. So the response to the failure of trying to handle the Colin Kaepernick situation is, we'll just put all these nice things about black people.
Yeah.
We'll sing the black national anthem.
Hey guys, we paid Colin a shit ton of money to just go away. So we're just going to put end racism in the end zones and call it a day.
How do you guys feel about that? End racism? Well, actually, how about you Negroes get a choice? End racism, I'll hug a white guy. My kids are mixed. What do you want on the back of your helmet?
Yeah, you know, like it's platitudes. You know, that's and
now they're done with it. Now that moment's over, it's like, okay, we said sorry. You got your reparations in the form of Kaepernick got paid out, and we did a mea culpa on the field.
Yeah.
Now we're done.
Oh yeah, I mean we're just complying with new directives from the White House. Like, bro, when have you ever given a shit about what the White House?
Remember when Tom Brady knelt?
Yeah. You know, like, come on, man. Reactionary is probably the best descriptor of the NFL. For them, it's just we can't have anything interfere with revenue streams. That's all it is.
And it becomes your reparations.
Yeah,
Hello, colored boy.
it's the guy from The Defender again.
Oh no, your reparations will not be a check or land or mules. It shall be NFL platitudes and movies starring your favorite colored people.
Yeah, I mean,
Did you enjoy Sinners? You're welcome.
Yeah. Michael B. Jordan is a treasure.
The chocolate Wonder Man here.
Yeah, but I mean, the NFL has they again, like we were talking about on Wednesday. There's got to be one smart person in the league office that goes up to Goodell and is like, "Dude, this is going to become more and more prevalent. We have to like come up with a plan here that isn't going to involve us like stonewalling a kid who then takes his talents to Milan, Italy, which does have a team. They're called, I can't remember what they're called, just to play for a year, just as a big fuck you, you know? And it's, you know, I would like to be a fly on the wall when that discussion happens, because I think we've seen Goodell is a iron-fisted tyrant when it comes to a lot of things. Like, he's got an army of attorneys to help negotiate CBA deals, and he is two knuckles deep in them every single time because he doesn't want players to get larger chunks of the revenue stream or, you know, the guaranteed contracts or the expanded healthcare that the players really fought for. You know, and it's just, he's going to have to give up some in order to continue to allow college football and these, I hate using the term in this case, but these Nepo babies that are going to be coming up through the ranks, who are well-versed and know their brand and have been trained by their mom or dad, you know, in how to deal with the public or how to, I will not rest until we achieve 40 acres and a mule for every black family in this nation, as well as the NFL owners wearing kente cloth in every public announcement.
I'm all for that. I'm for it.
Well, if Nancy Pelosi can do it, I'm sure Jerry Jones would love to do it.
I got to wear what? What kind of Negra Halloween is this? Jerry, can you not yell out Negra? Negra.
Yeah. I'm not using the other word.
I didn't put an A on it. The people that have never seen this show are being like, I thought they were going to be serious. Bomani Jones would never do this.
Yeah. Well, sorry, everybody. We have our serious moments, and then we have some fun.
And then we
here on Beyond the Red Zone.
You have to make fun of this in some capacity so you can not be angry. And I've been angry watching alone in my home all this Shedeur coverage. And until I saw the slicked hair of my first ever male analyst crush, Mel Kiper, lose his shit on air with Shedeur Sanders dropping.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. You know, that's his job and has been his job for what, 30-something years? Just breaking down
40.
film. Yeah, watching, you know, talking to scouts, doing his, like, this is what he does. And yeah, he works for the evil empire of ESPN, but if you're going to talk about like a draft Nick that actually knows his shit, and this will be the nicest thing I ever say about an ESPN employee, Mel Kiper knows his shit. You know, but a lot of these other guys, like when Joe Klatt started talking, and keep in mind, Klatt isn't a Colorado alum who had just nothing but massive sports boners for Deion since he got to Boulder. But, you know, suddenly Shedeur was never as talented as you know, it was put out and all this stuff. And I'm like, again, sure, Shedeur's got warts in his game. Every player does. But can you really look and say at some of the quarterbacks that were taken for him that they were better than him? No. And I'll tell you right now, if you are a general manager or head coach that can't deal with Deion Sanders, and when I say deal, like Deion rolls up with his like 8 toes and his cowboy boots and his cowboy hat, shows up to your, the organization's headquarters and is like, I want to talk to you about Shedeur, and you don't say, get the fuck out of here, then that goes to show that you shouldn't have your job. It's your job to run the organization or coach the field, or coach on the field with the team. And if you can't tell Deion Sanders to go fuck off, I have a practice to run and game film to break down, then you shouldn't have that job. Dude, Mr. Kelly's Mel Kiper has been wrong on picks. You can't hit them all. You can't. It's impossible. We get let down every year by somebody we think is surefire. Right? It's just a part of the game.
See, and I want to. This was the whole reason I want to do the show. Being better doesn't equate to being drafted higher. Attitude is everything. No, we've talked on this show about people that had horrible attitudes and they got drafted in the first round. It's not about attitude. Don't ever think it's about attitude. Get out of being the little league coach for a second. Get out of being a small businessman for a second. And think about the amount of McKinsey-like analysts that are in a room. Not whatever you think you see on sports talk, but I'm talking about what you don't see in White House briefings. You really think anyone cares about a bad attitude? You don't get to be a billionaire because you're nice.
Yeah, and the thing is, this is a $1 billion industry.
Oh, dude,
you're not going to pass up. You are not going to pass up making your team better just because their attitude sucks.
You think Robert Kraft gave a shit about anything you heard about Aaron Hernandez because you watched the movie about it? No, nobody cares. You think the Raiders didn't do their due diligence on Henry Ruggs?
Yeah. And this is the thing.
And this isn't, well, I'm going to say this. This isn't a slight at the person that left the comment because I don't know him personally. So it's not a slight, but there's a mentality that goes into thinking that attitude means something because you hear analysts say, is he a good locker room guy? Do you ever hear players talk about the locker room when they're done playing? It sounds like a horrible place.
Yeah. Yeah. You say what you're supposed to during your playing career.
Yeah.
Right? That's what you do. Yeah, man, we're all tight. Offensive line, we all go out to dinner together.
Family.
Yeah, we make the rookie pick up the tab as a joke. Ha, 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 ha. Right? But when they retire and they're kind of like out of the limelight for a few years and they go on some dickhead's podcast because it seems to be the trend now, right? They're like, no, man, I hated that guy.
Oh, dude.
Hated that guy.
Movie sets are the same way.
He never washed his socks, so his locker constantly fucking smelled. You know how we had like
about Adam Morrison.
Yeah,
I've seen these things on Adam Morrison.
You know how we had like the TVs and things built in our lockers? Yeah, dude constantly had porn going all the time. Didn't care what kind. You just heard people fucking, right? And then on top of that, he's like, bro, did you see what happened? No, man, I didn't see what happened. Well, I was on the internet last night. Yeah, dude, hardcore racist.
Yeah. Okay, look, if I walked into this again, small businessman, little league coach mentality. If I walked in the office with attitude, how would I be received? I don't know. Who the fuck are you? Are you an earner? Are you another C-suite executive? Or are you the receptionist? All that shit matters.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Quit
Brian,
thinking that the world exists in a vacuum where there is no class and it's only the merit of your character. Because if that's the case, then maybe Dylan Gabriel should be drafted first of overall.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing, Brian. Like if you're just Joe Schmo, you're not walking the CEO's office anyway. The CEO doesn't even know you exist.
Or care.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, the reason that people see team owners get so hands-on, right, is because it's such a high-profile thing. You're one in the NFL. You're one of 32. Like, that's it. There's 32 of you.
Yeah.
You're a public figure, man. And that's why you're going to have the Jerry Joneses, right? But then on the flip side of that, you also have the Shad Khans who just wanted to be in that club of 32 and really have no idea how to run a fucking organization. And that's why the Jaguars are kind of in the state they're in.
Here's my question to everybody that has something to say negative about Shedeur Sanders. Write in the comments what you think he said. Write quotes of what you think he said. Because to assume that if you watch the first round of the draft, every single player, and this has been going on for a while now, especially ever since the NFL can't do these background stories about he had a hard scrabble upbringing in the inner city. His mother was addicted to crack and sucked cock in front of him until he was 15. And that's when he knew the football was going to be the way out of him having to watch all the cock sucking. Because that doesn't exist anymore, because we're talking about this new athlete class, all they say is, happy to be here. Can't wait to get my head in the playbook. I'm going to be the first one in the locker. They all say the same thing, right? It's really fucking boring. So you think Shedeur Sanders walked into a room, his hat like this, and then he pulled his fucking cock out and was like, I'm Shedeur, bitches! Shedeur! Whoa! That didn't happen. It didn't happen. But right down in there's going to be some hilarious shit. I know I'm going to read it and laugh hysterically. Right now, what you think happened in those meetings. Hello, we're the New York Giants. I know who y'all's is. I'm Shedeur. Look at my dick, nigga. Look at my dick. That didn't happen.
You know what would be great, though? If that actually did happen.
Then I'd have to quit doing this all
right.
together.
If it comes out and they're like, like we're watching Sports Center, Jason's like, wait a minute. Fresh updates as to the Shedeur Sanders fall. Apparently, in front of Brian Daboll and the general manager of the Giants, Shedeur walked in and said, I'm Shedeur Sanders, bitch, like Charlie Murphy, and just plopped his dick down on his desk.
Somebody said he was probably 1 hour late. That is hilarious.
So get this, dude. Pembroke's a D2 school, right? Like, and we've had a couple guys drafted overseas. Okay. And I interviewed him, and we're like, it's like what, like a 12-hour time difference, right? So I'm like getting up at like 6 a.m. to interview him at 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I was like, well, you know, how's everything working out? You know, We were just bullshitting before, and he was constantly late all the time, right? Like he got benched for the first half of games a couple of times because he was like late to practice.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yo, Mac, I hired a white woman to keep me on schedule.
I would have fell the fuck out.
Dude, Jason, I was like, I mean, I know you're playing pro ball, but like, you're not like, you don't have fuck you money to be hiring folks. He's like, no, man, it's my neighbor. I just kick her a couple extra bucks. And she's like, hey, man, practice. And I'm like, oh, shit, gotta go. You know?
Can you imagine if Shedeur came up with like a menagerie of bitches? Like it's one for every ethnicity. It's, bitches, sit, please. Shedeur does not negotiate unless the bitches are happy. Like that. Unless he came, like Shedeur is only going to run the spread.
And he had like a whole like pimp uniform on. You know?
he just stops talking like he's always talked and just comes in like this. What it is, a nigga, fine nigga. Like what? There's no way in the world this kid walked into a meeting with Deion Sanders as his father, black respectability as an adult personified. And gonna when you go into the room, make sure you pull your dick out. You should wave it around like this in front of the owner.
Yeah. Shedeur, did you give him the windmill? You did. All right. Yeah, you're definitely getting picked second overall. Let's go. You know, like that's not how that works.
It's not how that works at fucking all. At fucking all. If you want to go so far as to say, I think that Shedeur Sanders is a second round talent at best, I'll go, okay, last year, Max said third. Last year, I said he could have been a late first, but if he would have went in the second last year, I would have been like, that's fair. But I would have said the exact same thing about Cam Ward. Cam Ward is not first overall. There's nothing about his game. Sorry, I don't care. And you aren't that great. Maybe you'll make me shut up at the next level. That's fine. I hope you do.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, Cam Ward is talented, but I don't see him as like a game-changing pro quarterback. Right.
He couldn't change the game at Washington State.
Yeah. Like I like you just said, I want to be proven wrong. You know, I want Cam Ward to go out there and turn the Titans into a respectable team, you know? Mm-hmm. But do I see it? I don't. And again, it's the eyeball test, you know? Ward in a lot, like he willed Miami a lot of times, but he that also got him into a bit of trouble.
Yes, he also made some bad decisions in a lot of those games that were.
I'm not saying he's Will Howard, and I'm always going to love Will Howard for getting a national title in Columbus. I will. But let's face it, Will Howard doesn't really have a great deep ball. When Ohio State went all in on bringing him to Columbus, I was like, geez, man, we got a burner in Jeremiah Smith and we got Ibuka. Like, how's he going to get the ball to him? And Ibuka is the type of guy who's going to play anywhere on the field you ask him to. There's a reason he beat, he's the number one in catches for Ohio State. He just went out there and performed. That's what he does. And he's okay with having a game where he'll have 30 yards receiving, because in the next game, he's probably going to have 150 and like 10 catches. But I was more like Smith. There isn't a corner in the country that can cover him one-on-one. Right? Howard, pushing the ball past 15 yards, that ball flutters. And that's honest. It happened quite a few times in the Oregon game. But Howard, between Knowles tightening the screws down on the defense and Ryan Day and Chip Kelly deciding that, maybe we don't just need to win in the trenches like we tried to do against Michigan, hitting that playoff run, man. The system looked good because it played to Howard's strengths, which, he can move in the pocket. He can break off some runs, and they kept the throws manageable for him.
And would you say the championship game was two quarterbacks that nobody really saw going in the NFL? I mean,
yeah. I don't see Will Howard as an NFL quarterback.
And what's the kid from Notre Dame? I can't think of his name right now. Riley Leonard.
Yeah, Riley Leonard.
Those are two guys. Like, the college quarterback to me was a thing, and then Tim Tebow came out, and everybody forgot about Heath Schuler. Everybody was like, "No, Tim Tebow is going to be great, but maybe not the NFL level." Sadly, my Denver Broncos, I believe, traded back into the first round to pick Tebow up.
I'm not going to say that was the Broncos. That's what happens when you give Josh McDaniels personnel control.
He looked at Tim Tebow like Lee Majors in was it Lee Majors as a $6 million man, or he's a fall guy?
Dude, all I know is McDaniels drafted him and then immediately gave him head.
You taste like Jesus.
Thank you for blessing me with your Sacramento wine, Tim.
Tim Tebow, if you remember that first year, he played in some games where the Broncos were pretty much done, and he threw for like 300 against the Raiders in a loss. Then when he gets the starting nod because the fans are calling for it, he puts up some of the most abysmal numbers a starting quarterback. I remember watching a game because I was in North Dakota when Tebow led the Broncos to the playoffs, and I remember watching a game where he was like 1 for 6.
Yeah, like the thing is, Tebow could not hit an intermediate route to save his life
until his life needed saving in the playoffs.
Yeah,
that throw, that was the one throw that was just so on time against the Steelers.
Yeah, but then a broken clock is right twice a day, right? Like, the thing is, it's like he was never going to pan out in the NFL as a quarterback. And when he made that well, if I can't play quarterback, I'm going to go play baseball. Okay, cool. And then he comes back and tries to transition to tight end. Like, you should have done that at the beginning of your career.
He's a giant. I will say this. When I worked at the college football national championship, the year was in San Francisco. And so where our offices were kind of behind where the setup is for the stage. And I walked by Tim Tebow. That dude is a mountain of a human.
He's a big dude.
That's a big fucking. All I could think was, man, and no one wanted to make you a fullback, huh? That's all I could think when I saw.
I think he would have been a great tight end. Like, he could have been like one of those pass catching tight ends that 800-900 yards a year, 10 touchdowns. Like, that's a great career, dude. Like, you don't need him to block much, because we saw he couldn't block in that preseason game. Holy shit, he was bad at that.
Dude, the guy played college football, and even that run, the Broncos run, we have to look. Tim Tebow to me will forever be this game against the New York Jets, where literally Rex Ryan has written the book. He literally wrote a book on how to stop the option, and he's like, I wrote the book. They couldn't stop Tim Tebow, and the last play to win the game, Tim Tebow runs over to the sideline. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. He goes, "No one gets the ball but me. I get the ball." Runs, wins the game, and Rex Ryan's left scratching his head like, this is wow.
Yeah.
And when Tebow came available, I mean, eventually the Jets got him, and he was not the same player. And I think a lot of things in that poor man's head were swirling around. And if you want to talk about, I don't want to deal with the blah, 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 Tim Tebow is a reason why no one wanted to deal with him, because he came with not family baggage as much as he came with religious baggage and cult-like following that no one wanted to deal with. Same thing with a guy like Michael Vick. It's like they come with stuff you don't want to deal with. Everyone's going to hate you now that you got the guy that killed the dog, even though he spent the rest of his life post that trying to make that right, which I think everyone deserves to try to right wrongs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he has, and it's not just performative. But still, people are like, no, you are what you did that I saw or heard about.
It's the same thing with Maurice Claret. Like when he stepped on his dick real bad. I was
thinking about him yesterday,
too.
Yeah,
he's changed his whole life around, and he goes and talks to college athletes about the trappings of, fame. And, people can change and grow up,
mm-hmm. Shedeur is not Maurice Claret, by the way.
No, he's not.
There's nothing about those two people's lives. And I'm not saying you're saying that.
Yeah.
I'm saying it to all the people that go, well, it's Maurice Claret should talk. No, Maurice Claret is an athlete of an era that's gone. These kids understand their value way too. Like Ja Morant is an outlier.
I'm still trying to figure out what's going on with that kid.
Maybe he does need to stop listening to hip hop.
Someone put some jazz on for Ja.
He needs some Steely Dan in his life.
It's funny. He plays in Memphis. Like after the offseason, he just comes in and he's like, I'm really into Shabuzi now. You're just like, wow.
Ja Morant's all mad. No one ever showed him Asia. What do you mean you guys never showed me this album? It ends with Josie, man. Josie.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Ja Morant just bumping dirty work in the locker room. They're like, Ja, would you stop with the Steely Dan? No, because I don't want to do your dirty work. Don't you understand? I'm not taking that foul.
Oh, man. All right, dude. I got to wrap this up.
Okay.
I got shit I got to do today.
Okay, Mac, again, thank you so much for taking time.
Naturally, I think this was important, though.
It's also your family day, so I want to give you a fat shout out for that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
But I think this is important. We talk about these things, how the media drives this stuff, right? How the media drove Shedeur, whether we like it or not. Okay, regardless of our personal feelings about Shedeur Sanders, they drove this thing that it's going to be Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, top 5, lock it in, right? A month before, we start getting all these things that, okay, maybe Shedeur is not that, right? You know, we have freaking, you know, like you said, he's aware of who he is. He's trying to control the narrative essentially in a universe where the athlete is not supposed to do that, whether in college or in the pros, right? And I really think that we are going to see this happen more and more as we have more of these legacy athletes following in their parents' footsteps. Because, I mean, I could honestly say, you know, we're seeing like these pro athlete team ups between like the NFL and the NBA player, and mom was like an Olympic soccer player or sprinter or gymnast, right?
Or now WNBA player,
right?
Yeah.
So like this kid is being doubly kind of trained when they show an aptitude for sport, that this is what you need to do. This is how we prepare. This is how you handle yourself in front of a camera, that type of thing. We're going to see this more and more and more. Just wait until Steph Curry the fourth is in the league in like fucking 25 years. It's going to be like watching Mark Zuckerberg in front of Congress. I'm just happy to be here. The team played great. I just take the shots that are given to me. My teammates are great distributors. You know, like that's going to be it. You know, and that's yeah, and you're exactly right, Dusty. Like
we'll shoot from another state.
He's playing in San Francisco, but he's shooting from Fresno, still hitting 45%. You know, like,
yeah, still going for. He hit from 45 from Fresno. Yeah. Steph the fourth does it again. The light-skinned boy wonder.
You know, but this is the reality we're moving into, and I think it's an apt term to call them the athlete class.
Yes,
the McCaffrey family was another big one, Charles, like 100%. You know, but we're seeing these athlete team ups, you know, where they're producing these, you know, children that are just, wow, Andrew, Jesus. Oh no.
I'm not trying to throw you off either. This is a great parting shot. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Sorry. But you know, we've got to, as fans, have got to just expect this to happen more and more and more. Yeah. And then the interesting part is to see how these leagues deal with young people in any league, be it the WNBA, the NFL, you know, whatever, because this isn't just a men's thing now. This is a women's thing as well. How these leagues deal with athletes coming into the professional ranks, knowing full well that I want to control the narrative that surrounds me. Yeah. And knowing that these leagues don't want that, you know, so I think that's going to be the very kind of important thing to watch, because this could lead to, like Jason said, other leagues popping up, especially if you get Steph the fourth, you know, and LeBron the third saying, I don't want to deal with the NBA's bullshit, but there's this other league that we could go play in. Maybe I'm not making as much from my play.
And we get ownership stake in it.
Yeah, but that, and Nike's still going to pay me a ton of money to wear their sneakers. You know, Old Spice is going to pay me to be a pitch man for deodorant. Like, they're going to make that money up because they are in control of their brand, you know? So like, that'll be interesting to see. It's already happening with European football in the United States, especially with USL forming a first tier league. You know, so like we're in a very interesting space in the sports world right now. And I think it's only going to get weirder. Maybe not porn play-by-play weird, but just short of that, you know.
It's getting close.
Yeah.
Mac, thank you. Again, really, you don't know how much this means to me that we were able to do this.
Hey,
had you not been here, I just would have been scared, said a few things, and turned the phones on, let people yell at me.
Jason just texted me. They're yelling at me, Mac. They're yelling at me.
You call me the N-word so much I thought it was my name.
Dude, Mac, hard R. I wasn't ready for this.
There was this guy, this new guy in the chat. His name was Brian. He kept saying, "Dance monkey, dance monkey."
We're just kidding, Brian. We're just kidding.
Please, yeah, and please don't say that. But we are just kidding.
Yeah, we're just kidding.
Thank you guys for tuning in on an off day. It's a Sunday. I think Ben and Stefan might be doing a show in a little bit, so let's get off the air. Plus, I've been streaming like every day. If I'm a guest, I'm a guest on shows.
Dude, you need to just take a break, do some frothing, maybe a little salad creation. Just focus the chi, eat the salad, drink your macchiato, and watch some TV.
Wow. Out of this Judas Priest mug, by the way.
That's right.
Screaming for vengeance. I just want you guys to know, I try to have a different mug for every show.
And like Rob Halford said, it's not vengeance he's screaming for, but dick.
Look at my dick, Brian Dable. Look at my my neighbor's so frightened. Peace.